Hi everyone, and so today, as Steve was just saying, I will be flicking between screens because I want to show a little bit in Evo, MicroPay, and also some spreadsheet work. So when I go in between things, I will try and make it as quick as possible for you. So I'll just go on to the next slide. I'll just be a second. So I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of screens with you. You've probably already seen them all before, or you've been getting this information from, other payroll associations or the tax office. But just to remind everyone that the lump sum threshold, that $1,200, is now being removed from the lump sum E. So if you'd like further information, you can just click on that link and it will take you through and you can read up about that. No big surprise here. We've been reading about this for years. We're now up to the final increase in our superannuation. So we're now coming into the 12%, which is great. And you're probably all over that. So we'll just keep moving. Just a couple of resources for you to click on. And some more.
One question I want to ask Michelle, and I've been out of the whole actually functioning on payroll for a little while. The lump sum E, so with superannuation, the 12%, most of our products will take care of that change, and the quarterly caps will be embedded into the product. And it's because I don't understand this, so I'm asking on behalf of myself, and hopefully it will benefit others. But the lump sum E, what does that mean for a user? Does that mean that what changes in the product, or what do we do?
Yeah. So basically what used to happen is you'd have to have a look at, when you did a back pay, if it went over a 12-month period, you'd have to look at the value that was over 12 months to work out whether it was under the $1,200. If it was under the $1,200, you would just put it through as a normal back pay. But if it was over $1,200, you used to have to then put it into what we call lump sum E.
Lump sum E, right.
So what's happening now is they're removing that $1,200. So now anything over 12 months goes into your lump sum E.
So that's a back pay that's relevant to earnings earned from 12
over
months
12
ago.
months. Yeah, correct.
Okay. So that means there's a manual interaction there and a manual thinking process.
Yeah.
Whereas the superannuation, and the quarterly caps and all those things, they're good to be aware of, but the software will take care of that, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios in a second where you do have to use your thinking cap around what's changing for some people. But yes, overall, 99% of people will fall into the category where they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But there are a small group that do have to think about when they're changing superannuation, and I'll get to that in just 1 second.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to tease that out.
No, you're fine, and it's good to talk about it because sometimes, we read things and we interpret it our own way, and having a discussion like this is where you can go, oh, I'm on the right page, or I'm not sure what that actually means. I'll go and do more research. So that's perfect.
Yep.
So next week, what's happening next week? Over the weekend, all of our hosted clients are being upgraded to the brand new version of MicroPay, which is great. And you'll be ready to start your end of year. This week, though, our on-prem customers got the link to the software. So we're just asking, if you haven't done your upgrade yet, please do, so you can get started with looking at what's new in Evo, as well as getting ready for the end of financial year. So just talking about superannuation, there are a couple of you that will have worded in your contracts things like superannuation inclusive in your annual salary.
Yeah.
And there's just a few of you that you may have to go back and have a look at your contracts and just have that discussion with your management team about that extra 0.5% super. Are you going to reduce salaries down to allow for that? What we noticed over the last couple of years is a lot of customers let that go through and they actually gave the employees an increase at the same time. So just have a look at that. That might impact you. And I'll just quickly go through this. We're going to go through in a little bit more detail in the software and what's in our new end of year dashboard on most of these items. But just to make sure you've got your FBT from your auditor, so from your accountants, and that it's ready to go into the system. Just a nice to do. I like to always go and check my specified tax rates for employees, and the ones that are expiring on the 30th and they haven't notified you that they've got a new one for next year, I just let them know that we've made that change so that there's no surprises and they're coming back asking you, why is my pay different when we get into July? We also do a little check to see if employee codes have been changed during the year. That can also pop up at this time of year. And we're going to do a quick review on the new STP categories out of the report from the end of year dashboard. So I'm just going to pop over now into our Evo product. So I'm just going to share my screen. It'll just be a moment.
I have had cases back when I was more hands-on with software and on the help desk and all those things where we had customers that are like, oh no, I've done end of year, but I haven't put my fringe benefits in. So don't do that. Do fringe benefits first.
It does happen. And I think it's just a thing, and especially when you work in a big team, you might have a big payroll team and we all take our own little bit that we've got to do, and we might just forget we haven't checked, has someone done their bit? So it's just a good little check before you hit that go button.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to the end of year dashboard. And the very first thing that we should be doing when we come in here is just clicking on your filter. And because we're looking at this financial year, we want to just come down and grab 2025. So next week, this will be available for all of our hosted clients, and as soon as you do the upgrade if you're on-prem as well. Now, I like looking at this. Now, we're using our test data. You probably don't have a lot of these, but if you do want to just have a look and see, well, I've got a closely held payer. Who is that? You can just click on their name, on that name, and quickly go in and drill down and actually see and go, does that make sense? All of these, of course, you can toggle out, which you're probably used to doing now, and you can bring back. Sorry, click on that again and bring back in. So this is really good. It shows you all your salary and wage employees, and it also shows you any working holiday makers. They're the majority of ones that you'd be having in there, but you can see them all really, really quickly. Now, the other thing, just a quick check to make sure that FBT is in there. You've got the two fields here if you're an exempt employer, or if you are not exempt, you've got the two columns. You can come in here again, toggle size, and really, really quickly, you can click on here and it will show you anyone that's got FBT in there. Again, you can download that.
That'll be picking it up from the MicrOpay tax details field, right? So
that's exactly right.
In the bottom of the section, there's the RFB reportable fringe benefits field. Yep. Once that field's been populated, it's going to show up here. I might just pause for a quick second if I can, Michelle, because we've just got a question coming up saying, how do I get the end-of-year dashboards in my Evo settings? So the couple requirements there are, firstly, that you need to have upgraded to the latest version of MicrOpay. So if you're on-premise, that update was sent to you, I think, on Monday. Cloud customers will get their upgrade happening this weekend, and then the Evo side of things will be updated on Monday, I think it is. Yep. So by Monday, is that right, Michelle?
That's right. During Monday, everyone will start to see the end-of-year dashboard.
Yeah, and then the last little thing is you need to have connected your Evo to MicrOpay. So MicrOpay and Evo aren't automatically connected. There is a process to connect the two. So the updates will go out this week for MicrOpay, either on-prem or cloud. Evo itself gets updated this weekend to introduce this dashboard. So by Monday, if you have your data connected, then you'll be able to see this dashboard.
Yep, perfect. Okay, sorry. So just moving back on. So that one's there for you. So again, quick and easy. And then we can pop into the next one, which is our tax one. So in here, you can see what type of employer they are, their tax treatment, but this is where you can start to see, do they have a specified tax rate? So again, you can just quickly click on here and see which employees you have. If they haven't sent you through a new variation, you'll see that they're expiring during the end of year process. So it's just worthwhile, just as I say, letting those employees know. It just saves questions when you're in July and they get their first pay. Okay, all of these are downloadable, of course. So you can keep a copy of them. All right, just a few other little things that I like to do when I'm doing end of year is I do a review of the system. So we'll just quickly show you how I do that. I like to look at all the STP codes and categories before I actually get into end of year, because you still have time to change things before you get to that final event. So this one here, we've got two databases in this payroll, sorry, two companies in here, so we get the two columns. So you just need to select both, and I'll just pop this up so it's a little bit bigger so you can read it. So this one here is where you start to see the real detail, and you've got your pay item and where it's going to. So I like to check and make sure all the pay components are matched. So how I do it is I export this out into Excel, and I'll just show you. I've actually run it out already. It comes out like this, and then I put a pivot table on it. The pivot table makes it, we can categorize by our allowance types, bonuses, deductions, so into that STP area. Now, if you don't know how to pivot table, don't worry. At the end of this session, I'm going to record a quick video that Stephen will put on the website on how to actually save this and create this pivot table so you can do this yourself. So now what I do is I'd go into, this is where I go into Copilot, and I start just questioning a few things. I'll just pop back, sorry, that would be MicrOpay. I'll just pop back over here and we'll go into Copilot. Now, some of you will have noticed that Copilot has been updated as well. You don't have to pick your skill moving forward. I'm still picking it because it only changed overnight. And I haven't done any real testing on it as yet. So we'll just pop in here. So the very first allowance I had, and I will try and get both up on the screen just for a minute. See if we can do it. There we go. So the first allowance I've got is kilometres. So I'm just going to ask Copilot a quick question on what is the STP category. Now, when you are asking questions, I know it can be tricky to get the right wording. Try to use your natural payroll language. That's just my biggest tip. We know what our fields are called and we know how to talk to the ATO. So use payroll language. That's just my biggest tip there for you. So here it's going to come through and tell me, is that right? I won't bore you with all the rest of them, but there's a few little things I do want to just highlight. You can, of course, ask about deductions, but I will come down and just point out about paid leave. So this is how you can start to use your Copilot to help you with finding things. So I've got other paid leave in here, and it's got two categories, which could be right. What I'd be looking at here is, well, we've got some ancillary. So what's the ancillary for? Because you don't use that one very often. So when you use a pivot table, you can just double click on it and it will open up the detail. So employee S22 has had some ancillary service type leave. So we'll go and ask Copilot, what is that? So how I would word that is I would first of all change into my analytics, and I would ask the question of, well, we've got some other leave, so I'd make sure I refer to other leave, and now I'm looking for the leave reason. So I want it to show me the leave reason for the other leave for employee S22 in the financial year. And we'll see what it gives us. So hopefully we're going to see something like jury duty or some community service of some kind. And we'll just give that a minute to pop up.
It blows my mind, this stuff. I still just...
And there we go. And there it is, jury duty. Now, there's obviously so many different ways you can ask Evo that question. We've got the leave history in the dashboards. You can export it out and you can filter through. But sometimes if it's just a one-off thing like that, it is quicker to go just into your Copilot and ask specifically, what's this for this employee? And it will take you straight to it. Okay, and of course, when it does give you a good answer, we do the thumbs up. Okay. All right. So just a few other things around while we're in Copilot that I ask at end of the year. I like to know, is there anyone in my database with a 111111 tax file number? Just a good time of year just to remind ourselves, have I missed anyone giving me that number, and reach out.
That's the noted number that's not actually a number, right? It's the...
Yeah, if they've applied for it and they haven't actually given us
their tax number yet.
Yeah. And I'm in a test database, so you hopefully wouldn't have this many people coming back at you. We obviously have to use 111 and 000 in our testing. So there's another idea that you can use Copilot to help you with auditing your data before you get into that end of financial year.
So there has been a question that's come in that says, what if I've opted out of Copilot, right? So, I mean, you've got two options. You can opt back into Copilot. The other thing is that you can find this stuff, but it does require you to sort of go deep diving into MicrOpay, right? Exactly.
It's all still there in your MicrOpay, and you can still work the same way you did in the past. Nothing's hidden. In fact, If you go into, we're going to go into MicrOpay. So I'll just show you quickly. We do have an IQ in here, which if I come through and find it, here we go. We've got a STP audit report. So if I want to have a quick look and see, is there any issue, it will pop up in here as well. So you've always got your MicrOpay. It just means you've got to go looking. You've got your report section here where your end of year information is. So the tax details report, we were just looking at it in Evo, but it's here for you as well.
So the thing here is that Copilot and analytics and all these things are just really introducing another way in which we can work. It's not, we're not turning off anything in MicrOpay.
No, this is about trying to make our lives easier and giving us more options. And we all think differently. And we all, I don't know, I'm a visual person and I learn by doing. So this Evo suits me. I can ask questions, it gives me an answer. Some of us are really analytical and love to get into the detail and the weeds. That's me too. I love pivot tables and going, what was before, what was after. So it gives us more choice to find the information and just give ourselves comfort that we are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So on that, I'm just going to take you into another little area that does sometimes pop up when we're doing our end of year. And it might be that we've changed someone's employee code during the year. And what happens is if we don't do this little check, we do the end of year, it means the employee, when they get onto MyGov, might have two records, okay? So what we need to do is just come into STP adjustments before we get started, and it might give you this warning message. If you've got this message, it means an employee has changed tax codes during the year. And all we need to do is just click on OK. We go and find the employee. And, oh, sorry, let me do that again. I only want to see people. There we are. So what we're looking at here is for some reason during the year, we've changed this employee's code. They were W04 and now they're W22. What we need to do is merge all their earnings into one record for MyGov. So all we need to do is click on here and update the ATO. Okay. It will move the earnings from this code to this code, but at the moment they'll have two records with the ATO.
If we don't do this, what happens?
What was that, sorry?
Apart from having two records, if we don't do this step, does it cause errors?
It does. So what happens is the employee doesn't get the final event has been processed correctly, and they won't be able to do their tax return online with the pre-fills. So they will keep coming back to you and going, what's going on?
So a good step is to do that. I always wondered what that box did. I never understood that.
Yeah, a lot of people see that warning and freak out and go, what? The other thing just to remember, and it's not for everyone, but if you've had an acquisition during the year where you've brought on employees that may have earnings in a different payroll package to what we have here, MicrOpay, you may need to zero out the earnings if you brought their year-to-date earnings into MicrOpay. So you may need to go back to the other payroll and just double check that they have zeroed out those earnings, or that they've got two pay events going through for this year, one for what was processed in the other system and one for what's going through into MicrOpay. That question only generally comes up during acquisition time, but I just thought I'd let you know now because it will be a MyGov situation and we'll just talk about MyGov.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about this a lot with I get involved in a lot of the new sales. So it's a big thing with new sales is that everyone always wants their year-to-date earnings across, but of course doing that can cause problems at year end. So
it sure can. Now, just a few more tips and tricks. I'll take you, because I've realised I'm using all the time up, which I do every time, sorry. But we'll go back to the presentation and I'll just talk through a couple of other things that happen at this time of year, that just to try and help you with any issues you might have.
Whilst that's loading, can I ask you, do I need to do end of financial year before processing the first pay of 2026?
It's highly recommended, yes.
And it's because of superannuation, is it?
Yeah, it also, it's better for the system to do the end of year. We do them in order. If you make a mistake, you're going to have to restore, and there's a potential that you'll have to redo that payroll again that you've done in the new financial year. So what we try and do is always do your end of year, and that's why this prep work's really important. Like, I actually do a full end of year. I practice it in May. So I go through the whole end of year process in May. I make sure that there's no manual payments that have been made by the accountants while I've been on annual leave and they've forgotten to tell me. I get the journals all checked, tick everything off. Then I come into June and I know I'm ready. It's just doing those final steps. So
you do fit into the superhuman category though, right?
No, it's just I've been hurt before. Okay. And one thing that we often get on the support desk, I thought I'll just pop in a few things that come up every single year, and they're just little things that trip us up at the end. And again, the first one's normally when we're in a team and you go in and you do your reconciliation and your payroll report and your costing reports don't balance. And what it normally is just a simple little thing, like you've got a transaction sitting in the payroll that has been unprocessed. It might be someone's gone in to do a calculation and they've forgotten to delete it out.
Right.
Or you've changed frequencies during the year and there's an open transaction sitting in one of the old frequencies, or there's an old pay company. So just a reminder, just to open up all your transactions, all your transaction reports, check every frequency, make sure they're all empty before you go and start that reconciliation process, because there's nothing worse than spending 3 hours reconciling and realising you've got an unprocessed transaction sitting there, and that's what's throwing out your payroll report. And then, yes, spent days on that one. And this one normally doesn't pop up at this time of year, but it normally can pop up in your first pay in the new financial year. And what happens here is what we were just talking about before with the STP buckets. You might have an allowance where maybe it's a car allowance. And for some reason, you've got to do a reversal against that car allowance. Perhaps, the employee's giving you money back, they're overpaid. Sometimes people put it in the current financial year, the reversal, and what it does is it puts that bucket into negative. And when you go to do your first STP event for the year, it will come up with a negative. And when you get a negative, it won't submit. So just a reminder, if you do have any reversals that need to go through, if it impacted the previous year, you've got to go through and do an STP adjustment and correct it for that previous year. You can't just pop it through in the current year. It will error.